Hello everyone and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, we are going to be going over my reactions and my thoughts to the CDL Major 4, the final major of the Vanguard season. And then after that, going to be getting into a player tier rankings here ahead of Champs, which is just a few weeks away. I was going to do the predictions for the bracket, but since it is a few weeks away, I thought, maybe I'll give myself some time to digest everything, think about it a little bit, because there is a few weeks until Champs, so maybe if things get shaken up or Ultra bringing a surprise scrappy sub or something, I have a little time to digest that and think about it. So just going to be maybe a couple weeks away for the predictions, because that tournament is the 4th through the 7th, so we've got a few weekends until that occurs. So predictions will come out a little later. We'll do some other videos and stuff leading up, but today's going to be some reactions and then a player tier list, so it'll maybe be a little bit of a longer episode today. And if you are on the audio platforms, the beginning here will just be talking about Major 4, but then the second half of the podcast will be a player tier ranking. So if you're on the audio platforms and want to come check out the video version, that'll be up on YouTube. But if you guys enjoy this one, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're on the audio platforms, drop a follow, drop a 5-star review on there. Before we get into any reactions, though, I have to say a big thank you to you guys. I know I've been making a push on Twitter and here on YouTube in the videos and stuff saying we're so close to 500 subs. If you could help me hit that, I greatly appreciate it. And we hit 500 subs. We're actually a little bit over 500 subs now. It's an absolutely crazy milestone. I really don't have any words planned to say or anything. I just want to say thank you. I started the podcast back during MW in my college apartment. That had been my junior year. Believe it was kind of around the time of COVID. I know it was kind of like mid-season in MW because I just wanted an outlet to talk COD. A lot of my friends fell out of interest with it during MW because as competitive players, we just were not a fan of MW. But I still enjoyed watching the CDL because I love the storylines, and decided to make a little podcast to just vent out my thoughts on COD and get to talk about it. And I know we don't have anything like a crazy community, some huge community, but hey, we're 500 subscribers strong now. It's nothing crazy, like I said, but it's a pretty cool milestone for me, so I really appreciate you guys helping us get there, and I look forward to continue growing. Next step 600, and then hopefully 700, and hopefully we keep it going and just see where this thing can take us. I really appreciate the support, though, seriously. I really didn't start it for subscribers. I started it to hopefully get a small community of a couple people that I could talk to about COD, and then just go from there and have a community. And it turned into a lot more. We got Kyle who started commenting on the videos, and then all of a sudden we're DMing each other on Twitter, and all of a sudden we're hosting the podcast together. And I know Kyle's taken a little break, but we've been talking a lot recently. He, like I said, don't want to disclose his personal stuff, but he's had a busy time in his life and just hasn't had as much time to focus on COD here in the second half of the year. But hopefully Kyle's coming back soon. We've been talking a little bit, so hopefully he's back soon. But that's part of the community we built. So enough talking about that. But I just want you guys to know that I don't take this for granted, that you guys have supported me so much, and I just really appreciate it, because it means the world that you guys, even if you only tuned in for one podcast, or this is your first podcast, or this is your 100th podcast, I just greatly appreciate the fact that you tune in, even if it's for just a little bit, and give me a little time of your day. So thank you guys so much, and without further ado, let's just dive right into these reactions to the event. So obviously, LA Thieves win. We knew they were a team that had the roster that could win an event at any time. They had a ton of potential, great players, 4 great players in their team, but they hadn't seen that much success this year. Their best placement at a major coming into this was 4th. Obviously, they did place 2nd at the Pro-Am, but that's a little different. At the majors, their best placement was Major 3, I believe, with a 4th. And, they had looked good online, but we'd seen them before. In Stage 1, they looked good online. They looked good online a few times and didn't translate to land. And then at some of the lands, they looked pretty good, but we hadn't seen like the event winning potential up to this point. We knew they had it, but we hadn't seen it. I had them bowing like top 8 or top 6 at best, and I had London in the finals. Yeah, that was a brutal bracket for me this week. I had Faze winning it all. Obviously, that didn't happen, but brutal bracket overall for me. Yeah, but LA Thieves win it. I'm super happy. I tweeted about it. Super happy for Kenny. If you guys know, I really in general have like a few teams I like to root for, just like based on players. I'm more of a player fan than really a team fan. But if you guys know me, you know that I love Kenny. He's my favorite player. It's like the one player I'm biased towards sometimes, and you can call me out for it, and it's probably true, because Kenny is just always my favorite player. I don't know. I really fell in love with competitive COD around BO2 and really got into it in the jetpack era, and Kenny wasn't really around much in the jetpack era. He really more burst onto the scene in World War II. He played a little in AW, but then he was underage, then came back around in World War II, and like watching him in World War II, I just fell in love with his play style. He was arguably the best player in the game for a lot of it, and Kenny's just been one of my favorite players for a long time, so it was awesome for me to see him win an MVP. But really, every player in this team stepped up. To me, the noticeable difference as to why I think they were able to win the event was Octane and Kenny. I feel like Draza and Envoy overall this year have probably been their two best players and have looked really good. Octane has been very bad at times, but he really stepped up this weekend. And then Kenny also has been very inconsistent and has showed some flashes, but since he switched to the sub, hasn't really been playing that well. And then obviously this weekend he had an MVP performance, and Octane was right on that level. And Draza and Envoy had great weekends as well. So I feel like overall for Thieves, shout out to them. I knew they had top 3 potential. Like somebody was commenting last week, he's like, it's crazy doing a Thieves top 3, and I still stand by that point. Before the event, I don't think you could say Thieves were a top 3 LAN team, because going in, I would say I had a little more faith in Optic since they had won an event. I mean, Faze had been in every grand final. I feel like you got to have faith in them. New York, it was hard to call them a top 3 LAN team as well because they had 3 top 12 finishes, although they had won the Pro-Am. But it was just hard to pinpoint who it was. You kind of had to have Surge up there because they were coming off winning an event. Thieves were not really a locked-in top 3 LAN team, but they sure are now. I mean, they came out, they won the event. We knew they had that potential, and it was good to finally see it in action. So shout out to them, and especially shout out to Octane and Kenny for really stepping up, because Draza and Envoy had been pulling their weight most of the year, but Octane and Kenny were the guys that needed to pick up that superstar potential we know they had, and they showed it this weekend. Kind of moving on to maybe a few disappointing squads. I have 3 of them listed here, and that's Boston being the first one. They seem to kind of be tapped out on talent, in my opinion. I still think they can hang with teams at champs, and they have a potential to force an upset. Maybe there's a little bit of a hangover from LA Thieves for winning this event. I highly doubt that, but maybe or something, they can get them in the first round. But I'm expecting Boston to get a 7/8, a last place finish at champs. Like I said, I actually do feel like our 8 teams that are at champs are actually our top 8. You know, sometimes it's a little fluky and somebody gets hot at the end of the year and they look to be a better team. And then maybe like the teams in 7 and 8 just got enough points early in the year and they really suck. Something that sticks out to me was like, I remember Rocker had a decent seed in MW, but they were on like a crazy match losing streak. And they were horrible at the time of champs, but they had accrued enough points early on that they had a decent seed. Another one that sticks out, kind of last year's Florida team, they had accrued enough points to like be guaranteed 8 spot, but they were not good at all and like kind of just bottomed out at champs. So sometimes that happens, but this year I really feel like, you know, Paris were clearly not top 8. I think at the time LAG were maybe making a little run, but I don't think they were top 8. Florida was making a little run again, but I still think the 8 teams that are at champs have a higher ceiling and are either more consistent than them. Maybe the only team you could argue would be like Rocker could have snuck in, but they just every time on LAN didn't show it, and for that reason they didn't qualify. So Boston, though, I still think they're around that 7th or 8th team for me at champs. They'd be the team that if Boston was to win, that would probably be the team that shocked me the most if they were to win champs. So I think that they're going to compete there and they're going to be competitive. I don't see them getting 3-0'd. I see them playing Thieves tough and then playing whoever in losers tough, but I feel like they're a double first-round team at champs. Ravens, another disappointing squad. They just can't get it done on LAN. That's another time where stage 1, they look fantastic in qualifiers, and, you know, they did get to 3rd there, so they kind of got it done there, but couldn't beat Optic or Faze. Have a couple bad stages in between, have a great online qualifier for Major 4, get them a 1 seed, and then they lose to Ultra, and then go down and lose to LAG. So London just can't get it done. I think they have a higher upside than Boston. I would be less shocked to see Ravens make like a top 4 run at champs, but I also think they're maybe the other team I might have finishing in like a 7th or 8th spot. I just don't know if I can see Ravens making much more than a 7th or 8th run. I feel like, once again, they have a higher ceiling than Boston, but I also feel like they have a lower floor. I think Boston plays a little more consistent, is always going to be in a game. I think I could see London playing a top team and getting potentially blown out, but it's weird for me to say that because their talent is there. It is there. Like, Afro looks like a top player most of the time. Nasty looks great. Zero's looked good all year. Gizmo looks great online, and I don't know. There's just some kind of drop-off that happens with this team at LAN. I really don't think it's a nerves thing either, because like I think Afro is disgusting. I really think Nasty. I think they're all great players, and we know Zero, he's played plenty of LANs. He's won events. I don't think it's a nerves thing. I don't know what it is. It's just maybe their playstyle doesn't work as well on LAN, and we can get into that in a little bit when we do more of our champs deep dive. I don't want to get too much into it, but I feel like there are some map pool issues for them. Like, I feel like they are a team that should be playing bow cage with how break heavy they are and how slay heavy. Like, Nasty, Gizmo, and Afro, if they're running triple sub on bow cage, like that is a very, very high potential slaying team. I'll get into that more, like I said, when I do a champs deep dive and analysis, but London, think they have a higher upside than Boston, but I also expect them to be one of the bottom finishes at champs, probably just because they haven't shown me enough on LAN to have faith in them. Other last disappointing squad I want to talk about, Surge. They finished in last after winning the previous major. Seems to be a theme this year. LAG did it as well. Optic, the only team so far to not do it, and they didn't have a great performance after their win either. They finished 5th/6th, so nothing crazy there. But I feel like Surge have the highest upside of these 3 teams I named as really disappointing finishes. I actually do like their matchup against Faze in winners round 1. I believe that's the matchup they have there. Or no, who do they have? Faze has New York. Surge, I can't remember who Surge has. Oh my god, where's the bracket here? They have, oh my god, I can't find it. What's going on here? Yes, Surge have Ravens. Yeah, Surge have Ravens. So I like their first round matchup. I do think Surge probably are able to win that one there. Sorry, it took me so long to pull up the bracket for some reason, but I believe that that Surge are probably able to beat Ravens in round 1, and I think FaZe are probably going to take out subliners. Now, this may change as I do a little deep dive into like map vetoes and stuff on where I think the series is going to go, but if I had to just like pick off the top of my head right now, I think Surge will probably beat Ravens, and then I think FaZe will probably beat subliners. And in that case, that would make it a Surge FaZe round 2, and I do like that matchup for Surge. Obviously, it's going to be tough to beat FaZe at all in a winner semi at champs because they are a bunch of 2-time world champions and Cellium, who's a 1-time world champ. But I do like Surge there, their chances, because they always play FaZe very well, and they have even since Cold War with their bad roster. They always play FaZe well. So I think they have the highest upside and potential to get a top finish at champs, but still a very disappointing weekend, and it doesn't give you a lot of faith in them going forward with how poor they played. NYSL obviously look great. One of the greatest stories in COD in recent memory. They went from 11th to making champs in 8th. Maybe the best bottom seed at champs we've ever seen. This format's obviously a little different and caters to having a better team at the bottom because they're the 8th best team in the world, which at champs in the past there's 32 teams. So obviously that circumstances are a little different, but definitely the best 8th seed in the CDL era. And I think, honestly, at the tournament, they just run out of gas at the end. I feel like, they accomplished their goal of getting to grand finals, which qualified them for champs. And obviously, they still want to win the tournament. I'm not saying that. But I feel like maybe they, like in their back of their mind, their subconscious, they maybe let off the gas a little bit because they knew what their main goal, I mean, obviously, they wanted to win the tournament, but their main goal was to qualify for champs here, and they had done that. So maybe subconsciously let off the gas. Maybe it was a little bit less intense than they normally would have been. But they look fantastic. One of the greatest stories in COD history to make that run. Paul, stats-wise, didn't have a great weekend, but you saw Krim tweeting about it. He was Mr. Assist. He was dealing damage for the team. Krim, had his moments. He had his bad moments as well, but overall played pretty good, and, his leadership came through clutch. Hydra was Hydra. He struggled a little bit in finals, didn't look as good, but, he's Hydra. He looked great. And then Kismet, to me, best player on the weekend for them. He was the MVP. If they win the event, Kismet wins MVP. The dude was unreal all weekend. He has hit new levels, and I feel like he's established himself. Unless he somehow goes to champs, New York gets double first round, and he drops like a 0.4. I feel like Kismet has solidified himself as a player that will be in the league next year, which is a cool story because his first year in the CDL, he goes on Paris and, doesn't play horribly, but it's Paris, and, they kind of have been a career killer, and then he gets sent to the Shadow Realm down to Challengers and plays there for a while, and grinds, makes his way back up, and now he's on a team that a lot of people think have a good chance to make a run and finish as one of the top teams at champs. So shout out to Kismet. Doubt you'll hear this, but if you hear this, that's an inspiring story of perseverance. So shout out to you for having that perseverance, because a lot of people would find it very easy to quit if this situation happened to them, and all these negative things that happened in their career. But New York, not much to say but positive things about them, and they create a very interesting matchup because I think you have to put Thieves up there in your like top 3, top 4 teams for sure, since they won as one of your top contenders. But you could argue that FaZe and New York are 2 of your top 2, top 3, for sure, top 4 teams, and they play in round 1 at champs, so that's kind of wild. Speaking of FaZe, they fall short again. To me, I don't have a lot to say about them. I kind of want to get into the power rankings for the players, so this doesn't go too crazy long, but for me, FaZe, they fall short. They finished third, second, third for them at the majors. They're still a favorite at champs. I feel like most people, if you took a poll right now of who's going to win champs, I feel like FaZe would probably be the most voted team. They're still FaZe. To me, it's honestly just, I truly think Abezy has to step up for me. He had a 1.03, which obviously isn't anything too crazy. Like, it's not like that's like horrible or something. But when you're kind of going through the major stats here, we got on their team, you've got Arcitys with a 0.93, Simp with a 1.0, and you've got, where else are we at here? Let's pull up the Atlanta Faze. You've got Cellium with his 1.22, second highest. Oh, excuse me, I've got everything checked here. What am I doing? Sorry about this. Bear with me for a second here. At the Major 4 tournament, when you check Atlanta, my God, bear with me here. Okay, Major 4 tournament, when you check Atlanta, Cellium at a 1.28, Abezy with a 1.03, Simp with a 1.0, and Arcitys with a 0.93. Simp had a really bad search and destroy event. He had a 0.78. I feel like Arcitys is always going to be around a 0.95 to 1, just with the way his team plays. All the other players in his team slay out so much that it's hard for him to put up a big KD numbers-wise throughout a whole tournament. But Cellium has been slaying all year. We know what he's going to bring. I feel like Simp has had his takeover maps and hasn't been as consistent. I feel like, to me, it's on Simp and Abezy for champs. Arcitys is going to play his role. Cellium is going to be the best player in the world, pretty much. But Abezy and Simp, especially in Major 4, weren't themselves. They were still very good players. I mean, when we're saying guys weren't themselves when they were around a 1, just above a 1, you know how good of players they are. But I feel like Simp hasn't had as much takeover moments, and Abezy definitely hasn't had as much takeover moments. If those two step up, I mean, they're right back there as a favorite to win champs, and they still are. Even if they play how they did in Major 4, they're probably finishing top 3 again. Couple more teams left here. Optic, I like what I saw. I like the fact that they were able to make a run to 4th place despite starting in losers round 1. They showed some resilience. They've been lacking a little ice lately, and they clutched up a couple game 5 round 11 against Ultra, clutched up a couple big search and destroys. I liked what I saw overall, but they have to clean up the control and the bow cage hardpoint. They kept playing teams on bow cage hardpoint, and they kept losing repeatedly. To me, I think at champs, they look to make another top 4 run. I like their matchup against Ultra in round 1. I feel like there's a good chance they win that, and that instantly puts you into that top conversation and puts you a win away from winners finals, obviously. So I like their chance to make a top 4, maybe top 3 run at champs. To me, if they clean up their control has been abysmal as of late. If they clean up their control to where it was, even if it's hard, it's going to be hard in a couple weeks to clean it up to where it was, or like Major 1, Major 2 time, when they were quite easily the best control team in the game, when they were winning Major 1 in the tournament and stuff. But I feel like if they're able to clean up their control and get it back to not an abysmal level, even if they get it to average or slightly above average, I feel like that puts them at the potential to win the top 2, because we know what the talent on this team, if it just clicks right, they could be the best hardpoint team at the tournament if it clicks. Search and Destroy, they've been pretty good all year, had their ups and downs like any team, but overall we have faith in them in Search. It's just a matter of if they can get that control back in place. If that comes back in place, I feel like that's what makes them from that top 4 team to maybe that top 3. And then if the control comes in, that's when I think that they have the potential to make that top 2 run. Still definitely a contender to win champs. Final team, Toronto. They lose a game 5 round 11 to Optic. They obviously won winners round 1 against London, which is a good upset no matter what we think of London. They were hot coming into the tournament. They lost to Faze and Optic this tournament, 2 obviously of the top dogs. I still believe Ultra has top 3 potential at champs. It's just a matter of they can crack those top teams. They have the ice. They took Optic to a game 5 round 11, so they could very easily beat Optic in round 1. Like, that would not be something like crazy to say. I still think I favor Optic, but it's not outrageous to say that Ultra could take them out. In that bracket there. Obviously, yeah, they play round 1. And if Ultra are able to take out Optic, they play the winner of Thieves Breach, which, is another winnable game. Thieves, they did just win, but it's Vanguard. Anybody can beat anybody. I think Ultra have the potential to beat anybody because of how good they are at Search. If I had to take a bet, I'm not maybe super high on them that they win champs, but I do still think the potential's there. We know how clutch they are. They always play series close, it seems like. They have had Optic's number in the past, maybe not as much this year, but they did take Optic to a game 5 round 11, and if they're able to beat Optic, that instantly puts you 1 win away from top 3 in winners finals. So we know the potential is there for Ultra. I think that they're in a better spot than teams like Boston or Ravens to make a run, maybe even Surge. I like what I see out of them. Think they have potential to win champs. They're definitely one of the underdogs, but to me, it's just a matter of if they can beat those top teams. That's they've been one of those teams on the edge where it's like, man, they keep cracking into that maybe top 5, top 4 conversation, but they just can't beat those other top 3 then. Last thing I want to do before I get into the player tier list, I mean, we're sitting at about 20 minutes already, so wanted to take time, obviously, to talk about Major 4, but going to dive into this and then, maybe save about 40 minutes or so, maybe hopefully less for the player tier ranking. But the eliminated teams, what they're going to do going forward, only want to spend just like a quick second on each one. Paris, obviously moving to Vegas. I'm actually not really sure. I'm thinking they're under new ownership. I haven't heard much about it, but hopefully they're under new ownership that actually cares and is willing to, put some investment into the CDL. If they are, I would hope they're willing to spend some money, and then I think they should just drop everyone and build around Donnie if they're willing to spend money. If it's the same owners and then they're not willing to spend any money, please don't trap Donnie in some contract if they have that +1 option. Just please drop the whole team and find some just 4 challengers players if you're not willing to spend money, because I don't want to see another player trapped. Just give 4 guys their shot and ruin the league again because your team sucks. But hopefully new ownership and they're willing to pay some money. Then I think they should just build around Donnie, build a God squad around him, and finally pay some money and make the Legion name, even though they're not Paris anymore, exciting. LAG, I think the Slasher and Hook duo has probably run its course. They've teamed together under 80,000 different organizations. They've had some success this year. They obviously win an event, but I feel like it's maybe time to give that up. They're still individually both great players. I still think, if they ended up going into next year with Slasher and Hook on the team, they still could be a good team. I just think it's probably time to let that duo go, and whether you let Slasher go, whether you let Hook go, I think whoever gets let go will find success somewhere else because they are good players. But I'd like to see maybe a team built around Slasher and Asim if they want to keep Asim. Keep him as a main sub, keep Slasher as your AR, find a flex, and find another sub. Maybe you could say if Asim was benched and there's some bad blood there, something he doesn't want to stay, maybe you could build a Slasher Spart team, or maybe they just like Spart and they want to build around him. I feel like between Slasher, Asim, Hook, Spart, probably not Gunless just because of the whole health thing that went down. I still think if this team would have been healthy all year, they didn't really show much when they were together, but they had so much talent. I feel like they won an event, obviously, with Spart, so they had the talent to make some runs if they put it all together. They just never seem to do it consistently. But I like the idea of keeping, because I think guys like Slasher, Hook, potentially Spart, Asim, maybe even Gunless, I think all these guys are potential building blocks if you just wanted to stick with one of them. So to me, I think you take a Slasher and Asim center team, or just a Slasher, just Asim, just Spart, just Hook. You take one of them, build a nice roster around them, and I think you could have another good team next year that could make a run. Rocker, to me, you 100% keep attached as your flex. I think he is basically attached. You walk into the year knowing he's a top 15 player for sure, potentially top 10 on a good year, and you have him. He's great for the brand. He is the ultimate franchise guy. To me, you 100% keep attached. If you drop him, Rocker, it's the dumbest move you could ever make, unless for some reason he's doesn't have a +1 or just doesn't want to stay on Rocker anymore and walks. If you, under your own power, choose to let him leave and it's not fully his decision, that is the dumbest decision Rocker could ever make. You keep attached 100% as a flex, in my opinion. I think they're likely to keep Standy. I don't know how I feel about it, but I'm sure they're going to keep Standy because I think they view him as a franchise guy. So to me, I think they go forward with Attach as a flex, Standy as a sub, and then they're looking for a main AR and a sub to go with. I feel like Havoc was nice for them, but I feel like they're going to want to go with somebody maybe a little more unknown with a little more upside to pair with Standy to maybe have a crazy sub duo. Not that Havoc's bad, but I don't know that they keep him. And then I think Priesta, I feel like he is more of a natural flex. I think he had a struggle this year. He had some glimpses, some flashes, but he also had a lot of times where he didn't look like himself. So I feel like they're kind of ready to break up this core 3, or that's really the core 3 since Major Maniac was the main part of their roster last year. So I feel like they're going to break up that core 3, let Priesta and Havoc move on, keep Standy and Attach. Florida, last one. I said it last offseason, but to me, the Skies and Awakening duo has run its course now. They've been playing together since MW. They saw some success in that title before kind of bottoming out at the end of the year. Then Cold War, they were just average for most of the year. And then this year, once again, just kind of average for most of the year. The roles don't make much sense. I guess if they really want to go forward with Skies and Wake as a duo, you move Skies back to main, you move Wake to flex, and you find 2 subs, which is probably what they should have done this offseason if they wanted to keep the 2 of them. In my opinion, you just move forward with 1. To me, it's preferably Skies on the main, and then you find a flex and 2 subs to go with him. I think the only way you move forward with Big Wake is if you want to make him the main, or if Florida is just in love with Major Maniac, which I don't hate because I like Major a lot. If Florida's just in love with Major Maniac for some reason, maybe they keep him on the AR and Wake on the flex and then find 2 subs. So to me, either you're looking for a flex and 2 subs and you just keep Skies on the roster, or you're looking for 2 subs with Wake and Major. Preferably the first option for me, but who knows what they'll do. They might just keep them together again because Florida seems to love Wake and Skies, and they're very talented players. It's just I guess if they got the 2 right sub players to go with him that were hyper aggressive, I could definitely see it working because Skies and Wake have insane amounts of talent, but at some point you'd think they're going to give it up or try something new or drastic to make it work with those 2 if they want to keep them. That's going to do it for the first portion. Went about 25 minutes here, maybe a little longer than I wanted to, but I'm going to be back. Excuse me there. I'm going to be back in just a second with the player tier ranking up on the board, and we're going to, list our players out for champs and talk about those and rank the players heading into champs. So I'll see you guys back in a minute with that on the screen. All right, so here we are. We got the players on the screen. Hope that was a smooth transition for y'all. I'm terrible at editing and all this stuff, but hope that was a smooth transition for y'all. We got the players on the screen, and we've got the tier list up here. So as you'll see, we've got S, A, B, and C, and got the numbers. We're going to do 6 players in S, 10 in A, 12 in B, and 4 in C. Going to kind of do it off feeling and, our recency. This isn't a thing over the course of the whole year, so if you think a player is way too high or way too low, that's because it's based only on, where they're at right now as a player, kind of mostly based on some of the qualifiers from Major 4, mostly from Major 4 in the current form we're seeing them in. Obviously, this is Vanguard, so a player I put in C might end up being the COD Champs MVP because, with the way this game goes, it's crazy like that. So, like, if you see a guy that you feel like in the course of the whole year has been an A-tier player, maybe he's in B or C, that's potentially because, recently he hasn't looked as good, or maybe if you see a player that's in B or C and you feel that they've overall been an A-tier player this year, that's maybe because recently they haven't looked as good. Or if you see like a guy, Kenny, maybe if you look at him over the course of the entire season, you'd think he's more of a B or C tier player because he hasn't been that good, but maybe he ends up in A or S because of how good he's looked recently. That's the reason. So basically, this is more of a recency bias list, and I'm going to say that right up front because a lot of people like to say, recency bias, why is he that high? Yeah, I'm ranking the players as we head into champs, just coming right off Major 4. This is being recorded on Tuesday, so a couple days removed from Sunday of Major 4. Heading into champs where I have the players ranked. So obviously, this might not be accurate. Maybe a player we have ranked in B will be COD Champs MVP or something. But the way I broke it down, I did 6 in S, 10 in A, 12 in B, 4 in C. I didn't have like a D or an F tier. I had it at first. Then I was like, honestly, looking through this list, like I don't really think there's many players that much worse than C. All these guys did qualify for top 8. You don't have the Paris players in here who are usually a free throw into the D or F tier, whatever, at the bottom. And these are the top 8 teams, and I really feel like, obviously there are some players that are weaker than others, but there are a lot of great players. So I want to do more of like a lot of players in the middle, A and B, where I can really kind of like separate through there, and then maybe throw a couple players down in C. Although kind of looking through the players, I had a tough time figuring out who I wanted to put in C. It's going to be very tough, and probably some players that are more B tier caliber players. In terms of a scale of the CDL, a lot of these players are probably more B tier caliber, but in terms of the 32 players left, somebody's got to go in C, so no hard feelings. I'm sure this is going to create a lot of debate down in the comments, but don't get too upset at me if I have your favorite player low, and don't get too hyped if I have your favorite player high. Obviously, you saw my major predictions. I thought I had a decent bracket maybe going into it, and they were abysmal. Vanguard is maybe the hardest COD of all time to predict, so I might put somebody in S, and they might get double first rounded at champs. Who knows, but embrace debate in the comments. Just try not to, kill each other in the comments and be too crazy disrespectful. I'm sure some of you are going to hate this list and some of you are going to love it, but I can't wait to do it. So let's get into it. Like I said, broken down, we're going to put that many players per tier. Might just kind of jump around. I might not want to go in order. I think it's probably based in alphabetical order on the player names based on the way I save them. Looks like that's roughly correct. So just going to kind of jump around. Going to start with probably the most obvious ranking. This guy right here, Cellium. I might kind of try to order it in the order I have faith in them. Maybe not fully, but I'm going to make sure Cellium stays on the top of S tier. I think he's the best player in the game. I said it's not longevity based, but he's really been the best player all year. And he had, the number 1 or number 2 KD. I think he was number 2 behind Pred at Major 4. And Pred only played 1 match, obviously, so maybe a little bit smaller of a sample size. But Cellium's been unbelievable all year. It's basically, there's some debate for other players and where you could put them on this list, but in my opinion, Cellium has basically been the best player wire to wire this year and looks incredible right now. He's probably the favorite to win Champs MVP if Faze ends up winning it. So I have Cellium in the S tier. I think that's probably the most undebatable thing on this list. Dude's been unreal this year. Maybe we'll start with his teammate who's right here, the Tiny Terrors, get him over with right away. I think you've got to put Abezy in A. To me, he's still been unbelievable. I believe he had like a 1.03 at Major 4. He has been unbelievable. Like for any other sub standards, this might be an A or S tier year for him. And his recent performance would have been like more of an A tier for like any sub, but he's held to a higher standard because he is a 2-time world champion. He is Abezy. He's year over year a top 2, top 3 sub in the game. The only person that's usually better than him is maybe like a Shotzzy or maybe his teammate like a Simp. I might go do the Tiny Terrors here. Might add Simp in right away after him, but I don't want to do all of Faze. So we're going to put Abezy in A. I think it's crazy. It's probably one of the first times I've ever not had Abezy in S. Usually in every tier ranking, like, here's where I think the player's going to be ranked heading into the new title. Abezy's always an S. Here's where they are currently. Abezy's always an S. But I feel like right now I can find 5 players that have been better than him recently, you know, in terms of an all-time COD list or like a recency over the last 3 or 4 years of their career. Obviously, Abezy, an S-tier player. I expect him to probably be an S-tier player next year, but, you know, just recently, he hasn't had as much of an impact as normal, and when he's held to his standard, I feel like right now he's an A-tier player. Oh, man, let's jump into somebody else here. Let's go down and let's grab somebody I believe is in the B tier. Let's grab Crim. Just got a runner-up. I feel like overall his stats and his numbers haven't been incredible, especially early in the year. Obviously, earlier in the year, New York was awful. Worst team in the league for sure early on, along with Paris. And they pick it up. They look incredible lately. I keep talking about earlier in the year. I should stop doing that after I told you all this is a recency-based list, which it is. But Crim looked great in Major 4 as a team. Maybe not the best stats for him. For that reason, I feel like he gets put in B. I think his intangibles raise him for sure because he's one of the best leaders we have and really helped to mold this team and lead this team to where they are now. I feel like mechanical-wise, though, he still definitely has it. He's still disgusting, but just feel like he doesn't have that hard carry ability that some of these players that could get put above him do. So I definitely don't think he's C-worthy because his leadership that he brings, and he still is very mechanically skilled. But I feel like he's more of a B-tier player at this point. Kind of odd because a lot of this list, I guess, is based off of mechanical skill in a way and like their takeover potential, which maybe is why he ends up B. But in terms of intangibles, he's an S-tier player. Obviously, he's a 3-time world champ. He's the greatest player of all time. So he's got that on his side. But in terms of mechanical skill, I don't know he has a takeover that a lot of people that are going to be put above him in like S and A do. So I'm putting him there. All right, let's go with his teammate right away. I saw him. He's still in his Paris Legion outfit here for his picture because they had like no good pictures of him that I could find on Google with subliners on. Kismet's going an A for me. I think as of recent, you could make an argument for S, and maybe as I throw players in S, I might move him up if I don't find 5 players I really feel deserve S over him. But I feel like Kismet right now, based on his recent form, is unbelievable. I think he was New York's best player. He was the best player on the team that was the runner-up at the event. He was the catalyst to them qualifying for champs, in my opinion. Was unbelievable. So to me, Kismet, an A-tier player right now. He has been unbelievable as of late. Oh boy. Do I put our first C-tier player? Because I think it's absolutely wild to put him down there, but I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to put Gizmo in C. Unbelievable to me because Gizmo overall, stage 1 was incredible. He shows crazy flashes of talent. This is what I mean when I say I hate doing a C tier, especially when it's only the 8 teams that qualified for champs in here, because Gizmo is a great player, but to me, his performances just haven't translated to LAN. I think he has potential to come out at champs, and this team is very Slay heavy. I think if they get their hard point continue to be polished and they can maybe polish up their control or something, I think London has a great chance to make a run. But to me, he just hasn't shown it to me enough on LAN. So for that reason, he's going to go down to the C tier. Like I said, probably more of a B tier caliber player if we have the entire CDL in here. But the bottom 4 teams are cut out, so 4 players have to go in C. And to me, Gizmo's going down there. Like I said, whatever 4, it's going to be hard for me to choose 4 players to go down here. And whoever they are, they're great players. But man, I got to pick somebody to go down there. And to me, I'm going to start with Gizmo down there. All right, let's grab another guy I believe is an S. That's Hydra. Kind of tough because, like I said, I do believe Kismet was the best player on New York this weekend at the tournament. I think he was better than Hydra this weekend, but I think Hydra has the higher ceiling heading into champs. Who would I be more leaning towards to, win champs MVP or like have an unreal event that leads the team to victory? I think I still lean more towards Hydra because I do think he is the player with the higher ceiling over Kismet. However, Kismet looked incredible. If these two both play to what... If we see Kismet look like he did at Major 4 at champs and Hydra plays up to his potential that we know he has, this is a scary team that could win it all. I just put Hydra at S just simply because I think the ceiling is higher. He still looks incredible as of late, and I think his ceiling is just slightly higher than Kismet, so I like him in the S tier. Grabbing another player here. Let's go with Cammy. I think I'm going to throw Cammy in the B tier. You know how much that pains me if you guys know me and have watched the channel for a while. Cammy, one of my favorite players in the league, but this year hasn't been as good. He's shown flashes, and for me, that's what keeps him out of C tier for now, is the flashes that I believe he's shown and how good he's looked at times. But, it's been a down year for Cammy, probably his worst year in the CDL. Obviously, he had a great MW, an unreal Cold War, an MVP candidate truly in that year. And then this year has been a little worse as of late. We've seen him show the flashes, and those flashes are what keeps him out of C, but I feel like the consistency issues recently keep him out of A. Oh, man, let's grab a Thieves player. I think I want to grab Octane. Let's grab Octane. I feel like he goes into the A tier. I kind of said I wanted to order these, but it's going to get really jumbled. I think I'm just going to throw players in their tier. I don't think I'm going to order it too much unless I start to see it and feel like I have a clearer order, but I'm going to throw Octane up in the A tier. I don't feel like I can get him to S just yet. I don't know if I can get any Thieves players into S. It's going to be tough. I feel like there are going to be a lot of A tier players on Thieves. I'm going to put Octane in the A tier, though, because he's looked great in Major 4 on land, like absolutely incredible. So that's the reason that you could consider him for S tier. I just feel like it's just like the one event from him. I like to look maybe at like Major 3 land and then Major 4 online, Major 4 qualifiers. That's like as far back as I really want to go as Major 3 maybe, and he looked okay there. He looked incredible this weekend. I really like where he's headed, though. He's a player with takeover potential, but I feel like a lot of his success came from Kenny also playing extremely well, and that's why I'm going to throw Kenny up there in the A tier with him. I think a lot of Octane's success, obviously Octane, probably still would have had a good event even if Kenny didn't have as good of an event as he had, but obviously Kenny was the MVP, and I feel like him finally playing like himself and showing those World War II Ken glimpses and playing like an MVP caliber sub opened up the map more for Octane, which allowed him to play better and allowed the whole team to play better. So I think both those guys deserve a spot in A. Let's go to another S tier player. I think we've got to put Dashy up there. Mr. Consistency, he looked incredible again for most of Major 4, and I feel like going into Champs, I'm expecting Dashy to have a 1.15 to a 1.3 and lead Optic to a pretty solid finish, so Dashy's an S tier. And if I seem like I'm trying to speed it up a little bit, it's because I don't want to go forever talking about this. Obviously, don't want to make this too incredibly long for you, but to me, Dashy's an S tier player. As of late, all year, whatever, he's been incredible. Oh, man. Do we want to grab another S tier player right away? Because I think there's a clear one that you all know is going to be up there. I'm putting him, I'm kind of going to order the S tier in the way I like it here. I'm going to put, I screwed that up here. I'm going to put Pred at 2, Dashy at 3 right now, and Hydra at 4. Putting Pred all the way up there at 2 because, in my opinion, now with the way he's looked and Sib's inconsistencies as of late, Pred's the rookie of the year, I think. Unless something wild happens, like what other rookies here are at Champs that aren't Sib? Because obviously if Sib wins Champs, Pred does as well. But, I mean, in terms of other rookies, there's really, let's see, are there any up here? Kismet's not a rookie, played in MW. I mean, really, no, there's like no other rookies really at Champs unless I'm blind and missing something. Oh, Nasty. Nasty and Gizmo, I guess. But I don't expect London. They would have to win Champs for one of them to win Rookie of the Year because they haven't had a crazy year, whereas Pred has won an event. So to me, Pred is basically a lock unless something wild happens at Champs and he drops like a 0.2, which isn't going to happen. But Pred's been incredible. Number 1 KD at Major 4 in the one series he played. Major 3 MVP as of late. He's looking to hit form. He's a clear S tier player. To me, him and Cellium are like the guys that are unarguably in S tier. Oh, man, I'm getting stared in the face here by Scump. Let's get him up there. You guys probably know where he's going to go. Don't think he's an S tier at this point. I think he's an A tier player. He's looked incredible all year, and he might get a little bit of a future bump because if you know anything about Scump, it's like Champs always seems to be his best event. Even if his team struggle, he always seems to show out, and his team tends to get third a lot. Obviously, he won IW Champs. His team always tends to get third. That's like his most common placing. That in 7th. A couple jetpack finishes in AW and BO3 in 7th, and then a million thirds. And then the first and also the dead last in World War II. But, Scump, he always tends to show out at Champs, so maybe this is a bit of a future ranking or something. But I like where Scump's at, and I think S tier a little too high. I think B tier a little too low because of the potential he also has and how much he usually shows out at Champs. Let's get another player down in the C tier. I see him right here. I think I have to put him there. I think we've got to go TJ down there in the C tier. Once again, I think TJ, personally, I think he might be in the wrong role. I don't know that TJ should be a flex. I think maybe he should be a sub. It's just obviously Vivid is a sub, and then I honestly think Nero could be a very good flex, but they have Nero running a sub, TJ running the flex in their team. He's looked good, but once again, this is kind of like a list on how I feel their potential is a little bit going into champs, and I could see TJ having a good champs, but if Boston is to have a successful run, I see it being more of a Methods or a Nero superstar performance to propel that, and TJ just filling in his role. So for that reason, I think TJ is a great gap filler. I think normally, like I said, probably a B tier player in terms of the landscape of the whole CDL. I think he's a great gap filler. I just maybe think he's playing the wrong role and has just only been, kind of average lately. So I'm going to give him the C tier. Oh boy, where else do we want to go here? Let's go with a guy like Nero. Let's go with TJ's teammate. I'm going to put him in, man, is it B or A? I think I got to put Nero in A for how he's looked recently. I'd say, obviously, if this was a whole year, maybe he's lower, but Nero's looked incredible. In the Major 4 qualifiers, he looked unbelievable. Obviously, maybe not as good at Major 4, but in those online qualifiers, people were talking about him like a top player. He's been absolutely incredible. I think I have to go A tier from those qualifiers. And I feel like I said, going into champs, if Boston is to make a run, I feel like he's going to be the catalyst and be like the guy that's like their MVP. So I got to put him in A. Oh man, I think I see another S tier player down here. I think I got to go with Shotzzy, and I think this is the most controversial time Shotzi's been an S in my opinion. He's like usually always an S tier player, but I think you can make an argument that Shotzzy should be an A tier player right now because he hasn't been as good as of late. It's kind of like the Simp and Abezy argument. For most players, the way Shotzi's been playing is an instant S tier or like a top of A for sure, but because it's Shotzzy, we kind of hold him to a different standard. I would say I think you can make an argument for A tier because he maybe hasn't been playing as good, but I mean, it's still Shotzzy. I still think going into champs, he has the potential to win an MVP, and he still looks very good. He's still showing those crazy flashes, and I think, as he tunes stuff up for champs, those crazy flashes could turn more consistent, and I like Shotzzy and S tier heading into champs here. Oh, man. Should we just round out the S tier with the 6th guy that's staring me in the face? I want to put Simp up there. I'm going to put Simp up there. I'm going to just order the S tier. I think to me it goes like this for now. I like Cellium, I like Pred, I like Dashy, I like Simp, I like Shotzzy, and then I like Hydra. Once again, I think that Simp, you can actually argue at this time, might be at the bottom of A. He probably had his worst event of the year at Major 4, but, the entire rest of the year he's been dominant. I know Simp is going to be able to take over at champs. I expect Simp to have a 1.2 or better here at champs. We know the takeover ability he has. We know he's COD Champs MVP. We know he's a 2-time world champ for a reason. We know he's been to, every grand finals. He started technically his pro career in BO4, won the finals there. MW made it to finals. Cold War won it. So he's been in every COD Champs grand finals. He's been a staple. He's been the best player on his team basically at every single one. So I feel like you've got to give him S tier because he's looked very good. Didn't look crazy at Major 4, but his overall looked very good all year. And then it's champs and it's Simp, and he's never missed a final at champs. So I'm going to put him in S tier. Once again, I can see the argument for a guy like Kenny, but I think that's just maybe a little bit too much recency. I can see the argument for a guy like maybe Kismet, but I don't think you can put both Kismet and Hydra up there. And also, once again, maybe a little bit too much recency. I can see the argument for a guy like Afro, and I'm actually going to throw Afro right at the top of A because if Alfie, if you're listening, if you're still here at this point in the video, you might be pissed I don't have Afro up there. I definitely think if you guys, like I said, this is like a feeling of where I have players going to the champs. So you might think that New York's going to bottom out and you think Hydra's going to play like a B tier player. Cool. That's cool. That's your opinion. I'm okay with that because this is kind of all of a speculative thing. I've got Afro on the top of A. If you want to swap out Afro, I think these 3 right here, Cellium, Pred, Dashy, have to stay in S. If you want to swap out Afro for like a Simp, a Shotzzy, because maybe they haven't played as good of late, I'm going with Simp and Shotzzy based on where I know they could be. I think Afro could be right up there in A tier as well. But just because of London's LAN performance, he looked great online, but their LAN performance dipped off. For that reason, I feel like every London player is getting dropped a tier below where I might have had them if they performed good on LAN. And that's why Afro is going in A, and I'm putting Simp in S. Oh boy. Should we get another guy down in C? I think I want to get accuracy down in C. This is kind of like the Crim thing. I I could easily see you putting accuracy up in B. I don't want him much higher than that. In terms of individual takeover ability, I think that's why he goes in C. I don't think he has much takeover ability, but obviously intangibles S tier. Maybe the best leader, one of the best leaders in the CDL. I just feel like, once again, based on takeover potential and who I would want to build my team with going into champs, I think accuracy is more towards the bottom of the list because I'd rather get the superstars and then figure out the leadership a little bit later. But can't be understated what accuracy brings because he is an incredible player, especially in comms. And it's not like the way I'm talking, it's like he's a walking 0.7 with good comms. No, accuracy is a consistent 0.9 to 1.05, and he brings great comms, great intangibles. Just don't think he has that takeover ability. Oh man, we need one more player down there, and I'm like staring at these players and not seeing anybody that's obvious. I'm gonna go with Illy in the B tier. I think there's a chance that Illy's an A tier player. We just haven't seen him as much lately. We don't know how the thumb's gonna react to the recent amount he's been playing. Maybe something up there, but Illy, honestly has had some more takeover games recently than I remember him having since he came back. He looks incredible at times and then a little bit inconsistent at times. I feel like his slaying ability is maybe in question at sometimes, but once again, he's playing with two guys that I have up in S tier in Shotzzy and Dashy, and Scump, who is no slouch of a slayer himself, so there are not always enough kills to go around for Illy, but I feel like as I put together this list, I may bump him up to A. I think he's a middle, like teetering A, B player. Illy, incredible player. Actually going to put him towards the top of B. Not really ordering this, but kind of like maybe putting a couple guys towards the top that I think should be there. Oh man, is there anybody else I feel like deserves A tier down here? I feel like Arcitys for sure deserves A tier, and that puts us at what, 3, 6, 8 players. Arcitys didn't have the best major 4. He stepped up at times. He had a couple more games where it was like, okay, Arcitys is back. He looks very good, so gonna put him in A tier. I feel like I got to put Draza up in A tier as well. He had a very good major, has been consistent all year, and I feel like is finally kind of coming into his own a little bit more on that flex role. Obviously using an AR a little more heavy. I really like where Draza's at. I think he has potential to have a takeover event, and I feel like him and Kenny maybe. I feel like Octane, now that he found that peak, is going to stay consistent, and I feel like Envoy's been their most consistent player all year, so I think it's going to be up to Draza and Kenny at champs for the Thieves to be consistent and propel them forward. So going to put Draza up there in A because I think he's been playing very good lately. I think another guy that's got to go up in A is Kleenex. I think Kleenex has to go up there, and that puts us at, 3, 6, 9, 10. That's 10. And we have guys like Envoy up or down here who I think should maybe be an A. Sib, who I think should maybe be an A. So this is going to get really tough. I'm going to have some fantastic players down in B. Wow, this is tough. And you guys might call me nitty for this, but I like Kleenex up in A. He didn't have a great major 4, but I still feel like whenever I see Toronto Ultra frying, Bance is kind of doing his thing, Insights, doing his thing, Cammy's doing his thing, but it seems like when Kleenex is popping off is when Toronto's at their best. So I like Kleenex in the A tier, and I think upside-wise, he has the most on their team and some of the most in the CDL, quite frankly. Let's fill out the B tier with guys that I think are in the B tier. 0, I think he was A tier for most of the year, potentially even S at some points really early on, but didn't look great in Major 4, had a huge drop-off from online. I expect him to have a better champs, and I expect him to maybe be an A tier player come the end of champs, but for right now, just where we saw him last, going to put him in B. I think I'm going to slide Paul in B as well. Had a rough Major 4, but I feel like he was, KD-wise had a rough Major 4, but his team finished second, and I feel like he's been filling in gaps. I mean, everybody in New York seems to call him, like, internally their best player, so they clearly see something in him, and he's been very good. I think Bance is another guy that goes in B. I'm just filling out the rest of B, basically. It's like one player has to go in C. I think Sib clearly goes in B, but man, I might have to move some stuff around. I think Envoy obviously would be clearly towards the top of B as well with these players that are left. I like Mac for B. I think he's been very good. I like Methods in B. I like Nasty in B. I like Insight in B. It might have to be Vivid. It might have to be Vivid down in C. That looks wild. Oh, man. That is tough. That is a good C tier. These are all very good players. I feel really dumb, and some of you guys might have somebody from up here. I just don't know. I can't justify for sure any of these top 4. I think Nasty's been too good. I think Insight's been pretty good. Methods. Krim brings those intangibles. Cammy, we know his upside. Zero's been so good. Paul, once again, everybody on NYSL says he's their best player. And Bance, we know what he brings. Yeah, I think I have to go with these 4 as the bottom 4. Vivid. TJ accuracy and Gizmo. I knew I kind of flew through the end, but I wanted to just get everybody in place and then maybe move some stuff around. For some reason, I really feel like I have to move Sib up, even though I almost feel like Mac has been better than Sib and is a little more consistent. You know what? No, I'm going to stick with my guns. No, I talked too much about potential. I'm going to do it. No, I can't slide Arcitys down. What I'm thinking about right now is this Arcitys and Nero play. I'm thinking about sliding one of them down and switching with Sib just because of the whole potential play with Sib. But it feels disrespectful to slide Arcitys down into the B tier because of how good he's been. You know what? No. Man, that just looks wrong. Draza maybe slides down with Envoy because they're Mr. Consistent, but maybe not as pop-off ability. And then, you know what? I'm going to do that. If you're a Thieves fan, I'm sorry. It looks completely wrong to have Draza and Envoy, but the way I did the cutoffs, they're in the top of B tier. I'm putting them top there because I feel like they could be on the cusp. But let me make sure. We got 6 here. I cut it off at 10. That's 6, 9, 10. Cut it off at 12 here. That's 10 cuts off here. Oh, wait. 3, 6, 9, 12. Yep. And then 4 and C. So I feel pretty good about the C tier, to be honest. I do feel like these are maybe the bottom 4 players here, in my opinion, with Vivid, TJ, Accuracy. If you guys are on audio, I'll read them for you here. I've got Vivid, TJ, Accuracy, and Gizmo in C tier. Then the B tier, Draza, Envoy, Illy, Mac, Nasty. Man, that top right there is a lot of players that could be A tier. Then Insight, Methods, Crim, Cammy, Zero, Paul, Bance. And this isn't any particular order. This is just what the tier they're in. A tier, I've got Afro, Kismet, Abezy, Kenny, Octane, Scump, Arcitys, Nero, maybe a controversial one there, Kleenex, and then Sib, maybe a little controversial because of a little bit of a rough major 4 for him. Then S tier, the 3 untouchables in my opinion, Cellium, Pred, Dashy, and then Simp, Shotzzy, Hydra. I guess to explain maybe some of the random ones that you guys might not agree with, Kenny and Octane, maybe some people think it's a little high, but I feel like they were both superstars at Major 4, and I hold them out of S because it's just the one event, but I feel like they look so good that they have some momentum rolling into champs. I put Sib in ahead of Envoy and Draza because really the last spot in A tier came up to, really to me the last spot in A tier came down to like the last 2. Came to Nero, Sib, Draza, and Envoy. I feel like Draza and Envoy have been very consistent, but I feel like on their team, Kenny and Octane are the kind of pop-off guys that lead them to the superstar performances. And then on Boston, I feel like Nero's the catalyst for them, and if he has a superstar performances when they win. I feel like Sib, obviously Pred also, but I feel like Sib is the other catalyst for Seattle when he's playing like a superstar, him and Pred together like superstars, that's when they're winning. I feel like they're more of the superstars in their team than like an Envoy and a Draza are, although Envoy and Draza could fully be an A tier. I like where this list is at though. So kind of one more time to go over it quick. S tier, Cellium, Pred, Dashy, Simp, Shotzzy, Hydra. A tier, Afro, Kismet, Abezy, Kenny, Octane, Scump, Arcitys, Kleenex, Nero, Sib. B tier, Draza, Envoy, Illy, Mac, Nasty, Insight, Methods, Crim, Cammy, Zero, Paul, Bance, and then bottom C tier, 4 good players, Vivid, TJ, Accuracy, and Gizmo. So that's it. That's a tier list. This is my rankings of players heading into champs. Obviously, the players on the teams not in champs are not ranked in here because that would be kind of pointless to have Donnie or Attach up there in ARS and they're not even playing. But that's where it's at. Obviously, this isn't like fully how I think the players are all time or have been all year. This is like my faith level in them heading to champs and kind of like the potential level I think they could hit. Almost in order of like if you were gonna make me draft players, almost the order of which players I'd want for champs. Obviously, there's a lot of recency involved in here. Maybe Kismet is not a player you'd want all the time, but with how great he's looked recently, he's towards the top of the list of players you'd want. So that's going to do it for this one. If you guys are watching on YouTube, I'd really appreciate if you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Obviously, we hit that 500 subscriber goal, but now the goal is to hit 600. So if you guys watch the videos, it's like 75+% of you that watch the videos aren't subscribed. If you want to go ahead, hit that sub button. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you're on the audio platforms, come check it on YouTube if you want to see the tier list in action, the visual form. Otherwise, leave a review, leave a 5-star on there, leave a comment. I'd greatly appreciate that. That's going to do it for this one. This has been Ryan with the CDL podcast. If you don't know me, looking forward to talking champs and really deep diving. I'm probably gonna give myself a little time before I do the predictions. Maybe we'll have a special guest or something for the champs predictions, but going to give myself some time to maybe go into map vetoes and really nerd out a little bit for this champs and try to get my predictions right, even though I'll probably spend hours and hours, taking numbers, writing down stats on teams and their vetoes, and then I'll still get one match right or something because of the way Vanguard is. But hope you guys enjoyed this one. I look forward to seeing you next week. We'll see what we do next week. It might not be the predictions yet. I might do something kind of random, kind of fun to break up the news before champs, but I'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.